Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Kayla, and this is my space to talk about all things horror. What's that? Oh, what's this thing? Well, you see, my doctor wants to monitor my heart because you broke it when you didn't subscribe to my channel. Just kidding, this is a Holter monitor. It's keeping track of my heart rhythms to just make sure that nothing sinister is happening. I don't have a chronic illness, but I know some of my homies out there have devices that keep them alive, and I don't think anybody should have to hide the devices that they wear to help them. Anyway, so I've mostly talked about books so far on this channel, but I've only recently gotten into reading horror books. Mostly I've been a longtime horror movie fan, so let's talk about movies. Back in 2020, when we were all losing our collective minds with boredom, as many of us, not me, but many of us, were stuck in the house for what seemed like an indefinite amount of time, TikTok found its footing during this period, and with that, we've seen many trends come and go. And I wanted to do a little bit of a mini-series on 3 horror movies that took TikTok by storm, for better or for worse. Starting with Megan is Missing. Before we begin, a content warning. The film Megan is Missing deals with some heavy themes, and therefore this video will deal with discussions of those themes. Specifically, skip this one and the movie if you're sensitive to SA, especially involving minors. Otherwise, this is standard horror movie territory, so there's going to be like violence and gore and stuff like that. I remember watching Megan is Missing a few years after it was released in 2011, maybe the same year, maybe the year after. And I'm actually a pretty big fan of found footage horror movies as well as true crime. So this really piqued my interest, but it didn't really follow through. I remember feeling like up until the last 20 or so minutes of the movie, it felt pretty flat. However, those last 20 minutes were what really had a hold over TikTok, creating a little bit of a challenge resulting in many people sharing their reactions to the end of the movie. So I'm not going to try to shame people that found this movie scary. The premise on its face is pretty scary because it can and it has happened in real life. However, the based on true events tag that's slapped in the beginning of the movie is just about as authentic as it was when Tobe Hooper used it in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the 70s. For those of you who don't know, that movie was based very loosely off the stories about Ed Gein, who was a serial killer and body snatcher from Wisconsin, who was apprehended in 1957. Megan is Missing is a 2011 psychological horror film directed by Michael Goy. In fact, he also wrote, edited, and co-produced it. The film follows the story of Megan Stewart, played by Rachel Quinn. The plot centers around Megan's online interactions and eventual disappearance after meeting someone that she encounters on the internet. So Megan kind of develops this relationship with this boy named Josh, who is supposedly her age or like around her age. And, you know, she's going through some very typical teenage girl things. She's feeling misunderstood. She's like feeling a little insecure. He kind of swoops in to make her feel better about herself and, you know, take advantage of her insecurities. Amy Herman, portrayed by Amber Perkins, becomes determined to uncover the truth about Megan's disappearance, leading to a shocking and disturbing revelation. So Amy is like true bestie. She's the GOAT. You know, Megan goes to meet Josh and she goes missing after that. But Amy knows this guy who she's been talking to, where they were supposed to meet, where they were supposed to be. And so she goes looking for her best friend. She's not about to leave her high and dry. Initially filmed in 2006, Megan is Missing was not widely distributed until 2011 when it was picked up by Anchor Bay Films, which is now a subsidiary of Lionsgate. Probably worth noting that Michael Goy wrote the script in about 10 days and was betting on it just being an independent movie because he was assuming, due to its graphic nature, it wasn't really going to be picked up to be widely distributed anywhere. And mostly he was right. The budget for the film was about $35,000 and features a cast that did not, and still does not, have many acting credits under their belts. The low budget nature of this movie and the use of things like handheld cameras to create it really adds to the authenticity of the story that they're telling. It kind of feels like you're witnessing something real, especially back in 2011 when found footage wasn't as big as it is now. Both Rachel Quinn and Amber Perkins were just kids when this movie was made, and I actually think they both did a pretty good job portraying their characters, but since they were only minors when the movie was created, I'm certainly not going to critique their acting skills or anything like that. It was also, interestingly enough, one of the first films to feature a story that's mostly told through webcams and computer screens.
Hello, my friends on TikTok. This is Michael Goy, the writer-director of Megan is Missing. And I got a text from Amber Perkins, the lead actress in my movie, that it was exploding on TikTok at the moment. And I didn't get to give you the customary warnings that I used to give people before they watched Megan is Missing, which are: do not watch the movie in the middle of the night. Do not watch the movie alone. And if you see the words photo number 1 pop up on your screen, you have about 4 seconds to shut off the movie if you're already kind of freaking out before you start seeing things that maybe you don't want to see. So apologies to those who are already posting about how the movie has freaked them out, but fair warning to those of you who are still contemplating watching the film. Thanks.
Megan and Amy are two teenage girls who don't listen to the myriad of warnings about online safety that many of us millennials heard ad nauseum while we were growing up. I remember being 9 years old, talking to another alleged 9-year-old on ICQ, if you remember ICQ, pre-AIM, with my father sitting in the computer chair directly next to me. There was no way that either of us could verify that this was an actual 9-year-old kid. I don't even remember if it was a boy or a girl that I was talking to, but there was no way in hell either of my parents were going to take that chance. But now, kids as young as like 6 are playing multiplayer games online, like Roblox and Fortnite with God knows who, every day, many of them without parental supervision. Now, that's not to say that like the millennials that were raised on all of these warnings are not like heeding them anymore. I definitely think that the fear about the internet has decreased a lot since we've been, using it. It's there in our pockets every single day. Most of the millennial parents that I know are very well aware of the dangers that could exist for their kids online and are raising their children in safe and healthy ways to the best of their abilities. So this is by no means a critique on parenting either. I'm not a parent. I have cats, so they stay offline. The falling action of the film features Amy discovering the cruel fate of her friend Megan and comes to the realization that she too will meet her end in the same way. These final 22 minutes of the movie are very drawn out, including 2 very gruesome photos, one of Megan in a torture device, the other of her corpse in a barrel. These images, as well as the scene of the imprisonment, torture, and SA of Amy, are what left many TikTok users traumatized. And no shit it did. The film was banned in New Zealand due to its graphic content, and many critics have, just like I am now, questioned the necessity of such sexual and morbid imagery, especially involving kids. So yes, on the one hand, as a movie in and of itself, if we just look at it in comparison to all the other horror movies out there, it's really not that great. In fact, I think it has a 4 point something rating on IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes. It just is not a well-rated movie, right? So the cynical asshole in me wants to say, hey, I've seen plenty of movies scarier than this, and perhaps I'm just some jerk who doesn't touch grass enough and has accidentally clicked on one too many NSFL Reddit links in the last 10 years since I've seen this. But to the average viewer, this media that's presented to them in the last 22 minutes is going to be pretty disturbing, especially because it looks real. It's set up to look that way. Apparently, Goy ensured to the best of his ability that the girls felt comfortable and safe when filming these upsetting scenes. He insisted that their parents stayed on set and allowed them to be there for one another. Back then, this wasn't really a common thing. So here's my rub when it comes to this movie. It is complete Fear-mongering. In fact, I remember reading a review for it a long time ago. I can't remember which horror movie review outlet it came from, but it suggested that this is just a 90-minute long PSA on the dangers of talking to strangers online, and I couldn't agree more. Goy claims that his inspiration for this film was his disappointment at programs like To Catch a Predator and their sensationalistic portrayal of internet predators. Pot, kettle, black. In a recent interview with Entertainment Weekly, Goy said, in retrospect, the message may have been clearer if the movie hadn't been so frank and brutal. But on the other hand, if the movie weren't so frank and brutal, then it would basically be a lie to what I had originally set out to do or to show. So in that way, it's a no-win situation. I feel like a win situation is like you not making this movie, maybe. Like, that's a win-win. But let's be honest, internet predators are all too real concern for anyone of any age, really, but especially children. Philip Markoff, the Craigslist killer, apprehended in 2009, found his victims through erotic ads on Craigslist. If you're out there doing online dating, you're on the apps, maybe don't Google dating site murder, because there have been a few of them. And we know that there are creeps out there who are actively grooming children and try to traffic or have inappropriate relationships with them. The thing is, we don't really need a film-length PSA and disturbing imagery of minors to drive this point home. We know. One of the things that bothers me the most about this movie is that it kind of plays on that very old school trope that many of us women especially heard over and over and over again growing up, when we were learning those victim blaming techniques to prevent sexual assault happening to us. That kind of implied that the people who are going to assault us were like strangers hiding in an alleyway, in a dark corner somewhere, and they're just like waiting to jump out and take advantage of us when we're walking home alone or something like that. And well, yes, people get assaulted by strangers all the time. It happens. I'm not saying it doesn't. That's it's a little bit of misinformation that we're spreading here. And especially the way that this movie does it, like it's this huge boogeyman. I don't know, it just bothers me. What's most maddening about this film to me is that the situation that Megan and Amy find themselves in is so unlikely to play out. So according to the site enoughisenough.org, 9.95% of tweens, 20.54% of teens encountered predatory behaviors from someone online, according to data from Bark, a parental control tool, in 2021. The site isn't more specific about what it means to encounter predatory behavior or from whom it comes, whether it's peers, other children, or adults. But children are most likely to encounter cyberbullying online. I mean, just look at any comment section on any social media site. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, hell, even Reddit, especially Reddit. There's a lot of cyberbullying happening online. So Love 146, an organization which is actually trying to end child trafficking, provides information, training, and resources to prevent any more children from becoming statistics. Before I worked there, they provided training for one of the very first community mental health agencies that I worked at. That's how I know about them. And they're doing really great work. So they've long been a resource for me for these kind of things. And I've offered them as a resource for parents to help keep their kids safe online. They do all of this work without any shock imagery. That's the most important thing. They even include a guide for older children on what you should and should not do if someone is making you feel uncomfortable online. I'm going to include the links to all of these websites in the description of this video. Both Enough is Enough and Love 146 inform us that risk factors for children to become trafficked are lack of resources like food and housing, family rejection, substance use, abuse, especially sexual abuse, child welfare involvement, family or friend involvement in trafficking, and undocumented or temporary immigration status. Traffickers show up promising to provide things that a person doesn't have: money, love, a home, a visa, right? So just like Josh shows up giving Megan attention, affection, understanding, all of these things that she feels like she's missing. These kids who fall victims to traffickers are vulnerable in the same ways. And back to the trope about the stranger lurking in the dark alleyway, lest we forget that according to RAINN, 93% of children who are victims of sexual abuse knew their perpetrator. They were a family member or friend of the family. To be clear, although I think the movie was a really weird attempt at trying to inform adults about potential dangers lurking online for their kids, right? Because Michael Goy specifically said, this movie is not for children, it's for adults. I wanted to warn adults so that they could look out for kids. I don't think that Michael Goy was an ill-intended person. I think he's probably just a concerned adult wanting to protect kids, and film was the medium through which he could share that message and try to do that. It's just that twisting the message with graphic and disturbing imagery really literally loses the plot and steers people away from being well informed, both about what it is they really need to pay attention to and how to protect kids from it. So I'm not going to show any of the imagery in this video. I know you're watching it, and if you haven't seen the movie, you're probably like dying to know, especially if you're a horror movie fan. You can look it up on Google. You can watch the movie. I'm sure it's on like Tubi or something like that at this point. I warned you, Michael Goy warned you. So just be aware of what you're about to see. So TikTok, I get it. Photos 1 and 2 were fucked up. But could you maybe pick a better 10-year-old horror movie to become obsessed with next time? Actually, I think I have one in mind, but I'm going to save that for next time. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I would love to hear your thoughts about Megan is Missing. Did you watch this movie? Do you think that the message was appropriate in the way that it was conveyed? Did you think the movie was scary? If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe. If you don't know what to comment, leave a bad emoji since this is a horror channel. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.